quantum biology of the eye. It's hard to read, difficult to understand. I told them to explain it to us what quantum biology of the olfactory nerve. So Moazed, welcome. Give us your short summary, but please don't go overboard.
Okay. Early 20th century, the scientists noticed that the laws of physics does not apply to the small particles. So they had to come up with the new ideas, and that was the birth of the quantum physics. And then they found out that the quantum physics does not, they thought it's not applied for biological processes. And then later on, they found out that all the biological processes based on quantum physics, because they're all made of small particles and atomic particles. So they came up with all these fundamental rules of quantum physics, which some of them we are all familiar with, like the wave-particle duality, the electrons and photons, the quantum superposition, which system exists in multiple states, entanglement. And the tunneling is very important because the particles can pass through the potential barriers, and that is what's happening in the olfactory nerve. So the other principles are not applying for today's talk, so I'm not going to go over that. What happens in quantum biology is using the quantum phenomena such as superposition, entanglement, tunneling into the what's happening in biology, like enzyme activity, photosynthesis, olfaction, and even they found that the avian navigation and human consciousness is based on that. So in other words, we are looking at the life in a molecular and subatomic level. The old theory of smell through the olfactory nerve was the lock and key theory, which was there's a odorant molecule binds to receptor through the shape and the fit, and each receptor tuned to a specific odorant. And that explains how the stereoisomers can smell differently, but it does not explain why different shaped molecules can have similar smell, and it does not explain why some shape of molecules with different vibrations can smell differently. So that was the new need for the new theory, which is with the help of quantum physics, they kind of tried to figure that out. So the new theory says that the olfactory receptors recognizes both the shape, which is the old theory, including, and the vibration of the molecules. So this vibration of the chemical bonds and structure of the molecules contribute to the sense of smell. So what happens is there's an electron tunneling may be involved, which the receptors detect this specific vibration energy from the chemical bonds. And that explains why molecules with similar vibrations but different shape can smell the same. And it also accounts for if you exchange the isotope, which means like replacing the hydrogen with deuterium, it can alter the smell even though the shape of the molecule is the same. So in order to understand now how all these quantum physics happens in the nerve, we have to go over the microanatomy of the quantum neuron. So everybody's familiar with the structure of neuron. Yeah, we read that in the medical school. But when you go down on the neuron structure, you see that the neurons, inside of the neurons, there are multiple microtubules. These microtubules are extremely important to carry the quantum information. Now, how does it work? So let's go to what is the structure of these microtubules. They are combined of the units of alpha and beta subunits, which is called tubulin. These tubulins make a roll and then makes the tubes. It's interesting that there are 13 of them, make a complete circle, and then makes the tube. And most interesting is when you go down further into the the individual structure of these alpha and beta tubulins, you'll see that there are, in each of them, there are 2 molecules of tryptophan. Now, recently, they have found out that the tryptophan is the most important molecule. It's like an antenna for quantum transfer of information. Actually, it transfers the electrons from one molecule to another. And the way it works is that you have the microtubule and you have the mitochondria, which is source of energy. These mitochondria are carried by these transport molecules, which is dynein and kinesin, in different positions. And they have these tiny little legs that walk across the microtubules. And what they do is extremely important. They produce in one hand, they synthesize the ATP, which is the source of energy. And the other hand, they produce the singlet oxygen, which is the oxygen species. These are the ones that produces the raw of electron to transfer or transport into the microtubule. And also they produce biophotons. These little photons that are like the fiber optics. It works in the neural system. So just quickly mention that when the electrons, this is a known fact that when the electrons go from one orbit to the higher orbit or coming back to the lower orbit, they either absorb or emit the energy, which is in the form of photon. So that's the main source of photon production in the tissue. And so here we see the whole entire system. We have the mitochondria in the corner, produces the energy, send it to the ground state of the molecule, whatever it is, and it makes it in the higher state of energy in the upper level, but they want immediately come back to its original ground state, which produce the photons. And these photons going to the microtube, and you see on the right, and it gets transferred by that. So what happens? Now we have all this fast system. Would it work with the old system of ionic transfer? It's too slow. Ionic transfer, you have everybody knows that the sodium, potassium going back and forth, and then they have to get to the synaptic area. They have to release these vesicles. They have to produce the transmitters. Transmitters have to go to the other end, gets to the receptors, yet it's too long. It's too long to. So what happens, I have the speeds here. You can see that the ion exchange speed is about 1 meter to 120 meter per second, which depends on the myelination of the nerve. But biophotons are transmitted by nearly speed of light in the tissue. And that's the speed it needs for instant smelling of something, and all the memories of that thing comes out without having a time to go through the process of synapses and all those things. So there are 2 things happens here. It's a vibrational, molecular vibration, and the biophotons. And I'm quickly going to mention that. And that's basically the whole process of quantum transfer. So vibrational energy of molecule can lead to excitation of electrons, as I mentioned in that picture, and it moves it to another level, the higher state. And when it comes back, it produces the biophotons. And you can see on the bottom, these vibrations happens usually between the atom of carbon, hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen, hydrogen. So most of the biological tissue are using these bonds. And you can see them. I don't have it in the video, but these are all different ways of molecular vibration. Biophotons are weak photons emitted by living organisms, typically in the ultraviolet, visible, or near infrared spectrum. These emissions are often associated with metabolic activities. Mitochondria, oxidation, stress, and ATP synthesis are known to be the source of biophotons. And the vibration of energy can produce these photons. So we get to the conclusion. I'm almost done. The olfactory nerve, like other neural tissues, utilize both classical physics, which is the ionic transfer, and quantum physics, which is the vibrational energy and biophotons, to transfer information to the brain. Electron tunneling has been proposed as a possible way of these electrons to go through the energy barrier. The latest theory is inelastic electron tunneling, which is the quantum mechanism by which electrons transfer energy to excite molecular vibrations. And to the end this discussion, we go to quantum tunneling in the context of olfaction, provides a plausible way for olfactory receptors to detect the vibrational frequency of odorant molecules. And these are the references if anyone interested.